I'd like to call Usamah Naveed, STZA, to talk about building Asia's next technology hub.
Assalamualaikum everyone. It's great to be here and meet such like-minded people, professionals, especially from the real estate and also tech side. I'm representing tech here. I work for the Special Technology Zone Authority. We are an autonomous government body with the cabinet division of the government of Pakistan. And our relevance is such that the Prime Minister of Pakistan is the president of our Board of Governors. So whatever our planning is, whatever our strategizing is basically for the longevity of the tech economy in Pakistan. I got a call from Adif a couple of weeks back, and he said that he's doing this PropTech Convention. It's relatively new, and very few people pick up on this convergence between technology and real estate and how they go together overall for economic growth in the future. So that's why we're here, and STZA is also part of this PropTech Convention, and hopefully in the future we'll be doing much more of such events. I made a presentation for everyone just to give some perspective as to what and how Pakistan can be the next technology hub in the region with partners from real estate, with partners from the construction sector, with partners from the tech side, how they go together. We've sort of formulated a legislation for that, which is the STZA Act. It was promulgated in 2021. And how that works, I'm going to explain that today, and as well as that, also give a refresher and a snapshot as to where our tech sector is and how real estate infuses into it. Next slide. Okay, so this is a snapshot of where we are in terms of global trade in technology. Pakistan in 2021 reached a good number of around $2.1 billion in IT exports. Now, why I've highlighted these four countries out of all the rest that we export to is because the percentage that this represents is sort of the amount of business that we're getting from these countries as per their overall global IT imports. So for example, in terms of the United States, the overall IT imports, Pakistan has around 3.9%. Pakistani IT companies are doing like 3.9% of that. Overall in Singapore, 0.4%, China, 0.1%, Germany, 0.1%. Then we have Sweden and Netherlands. Hello. Then we have Sweden and Netherlands. So this is just to give everybody a perspective as to what Pakistani IT companies are doing globally and where they are already and what markets they've already tapped into. So for the business community, this is sort of a refresher because this market, this IT and tech wave that we're seeing these days, it's been in the making since the past 10, 15 years. Now we're at a point where it can scale, it can launch, and because we've already tapped into the biggest markets in the world in terms of IT and tech. This shows that we're at a good $2 billion of exports and rising above every year. And inshallah, now we have a target from our ministries and our government to reach at least $10 billion over the next few years. And that won't happen without the likes of the private sector. Because the government is basically the back end, the enabler, the facilitator and the regulator. So we want to go by the enablement through regulation model. But that's interesting because in that sense, we have a lot of these sessions with private sector feedbacks, information sessions. That's what we conduct so we can understand. Next slide, please. This is another statistics that presents how Pakistani IT companies have grown from 2013 to 2022. Mainly led by computer services, they contribute to around 80.5% of our total exports. Then we have software consultancy services, we have export of computer software, which is mostly software as a service, call centers, telecom services, then hardware, maintenance, repair, computers. This is mainly what we are doing in this space, in the tech and IT space, as per the State Bank of Pakistan's special report on IT and startups in Pakistan. So as you can see, the trend is great, it looks good, it's a rising trend. And how we can sort of teleport this to better numbers overall, I'll show you. Next slide, please. Again, this is a deeper analysis of what Pakistan's IT landscape is. Currently, there's an issue that we're facing overall because we have around 7,000, 8,000 registered companies, according to the State Bank of Pakistan, that are conducting IT exports globally. Out of those, 80% of firms in Pakistan export less than $0.1 million annually. That is not a big number. We're right now playing in terms of volume. Anybody can open a startup, anybody can open a software house anywhere and start doing business. But the concept of unifying these tech companies and these small software houses, these small remote workers, getting them together, freelancing, to collectively grow these numbers in software consultancy, computer services, computer software, because we're already global. We're already, Pakistani IT industry is already a global industry. But now, what's the next step? The next step is where we come in terms of PropTech and how technology and real estate can set the foundations to catapult. Next slide, please. This slide presents certain elements of what technology sector is and what the opportunities are for anybody that is already in real estate or even property. And they want to understand a bit more about why technology or why work in the tech space. So first and foremost, there is a higher potential for productivity growth, higher potential because the barriers of entry are low. Setting up an office, setting up a team, and initiating business, that is a tech or even a software or computer consultancy, it's relatively easier. And the returns on investment are relatively higher as compared to other businesses where initial capex is huge. So in these terms, it's not a lot. Then we have the potential to transform our legacy industries across Pakistan, textile, pharmaceutical, all been operating for years, been supported by the government, but now the annual productivity yield is stagnating. It's not growing more than 10% or even till 10%. And what we are trying to do now is ensure the right tools, the right digital tools are being deployed by these companies themselves, obviously with certain incentivization, so that they can increase their yield and their efficiency and their effectiveness in the long term. Obviously, job creation moves a big needle for the government and for the country. We have around 20 to 25,000 IT graduates graduating annually. And the problem that they face generally is the fact that the market is not as job friendly. According to the State Bank, the private sector in Pakistan, they say that most of these graduates that we get every year, 10% is their employability right now, according to a recent survey. That is another area where we need to work hard in terms of training. So IT, tech, jobs and trainings go hand in hand. Skill development and job creation in IT is essential for the overall growth of our human capital in Pakistan. Pakistan is one of the youngest countries in the world, with around 60% youth in Pakistan. That is our economic engine, sir, as you were mentioning, the engine to the click. Our economic engine right now is our human capital, and we need to transform it through tech and through visionary leaders who understand that mentorship is actually a thing. Generally in Pakistan, that's something we see less of, but we need to see more of. Then we have the final, this is my favorite because innovation generally produces new tech. So new and emerging tech, new ways of solving problems, age-old problems that we face in Pakistan, that can be solved through web, mobile apps, fintech, AR, VR, artificial intelligence, big data. These are all the new technologies that are solving problems across the globe. And in Pakistan, we have a good startup ecosystem now. We have incubation centers, we have co-working spaces, we have venture capital firms that are setting up now in Pakistan. Because they realize that the kids in Pakistan are smart enough to solve the problems that we have internally. And because Pakistan is such a huge consumer market, I think we're the 5th largest consumer market in the world. What that enables is, if you have the right tech, and we have around 100 million plus smartphones in Pakistan. Well, that's a huge, huge number for any tech company to look into and target and tap into. So, innovation and startups, that is a very important aspect of the tech space. These are the 4 main opportunities that we see over the long term in terms of technology. Next slide, please. So, I've also pulled together, did some research, and I pulled together some policies that have been in place for the enablement of technology sector in Pakistan since 1995. So all the results that we're seeing these days, Pakistani startups have raised more than $500 million over 2 years, the tech startups mostly. Exports in IT and tech have grown to $2 billion plus. All of these results are not a coincidence. They are mainly have been enabled through facilitated policies by the federal government, which include the Pakistan Software Export Board, PTA, SECP, EOI, National ICT R&D Fund, this is Ignite. Then we have NBFC and any regulations, these are for fintech companies specifically. Then we have NAVTech. NAVTech is the National Vocational Training and Technical Institute. So again, I've also summarized what they represented and how they have done over time. So next slide, please. Again, some more enabling policies. There's an Intellectual Property Act. This is a very important, very innovative policy which created an intellectual property organization of Pakistan. Again, so interestingly enough, and this is where private sector and industry, I think personally, can play a greater role in terms of understanding these legislations, these policies, and then recommending amendments or building in a framework where we can understand better what the industry requires. So for example, IP, in terms of IP, technology is not considered an asset class right now. And that is a problem that we're trying to solve overall. And specifically, State Bank of Pakistan has done a lot of work in Pakistan. Now that you see a lot of cashless payments, mobile wallets, e-money, that has been in the making since I think since 2007, that was the first time State Bank of Pakistan launched the Electronic Funds Transfer and Payments Act. That was the main enabler for a lot of these payment gateways, payment service operators, service providers. Then we have private fund regulations by STZA for venture capital firms. There's a reform agenda as Pakistan's Single Window Act that's also enabling ease of doing business for industry. And there's a regulatory sandbox that was launched for new innovations and new minds to come together and work on open innovation, which is collectively developed products and services that facilitate growth in the economy overall. Next slide, please. This slide also represents some policies. So Special Technology Zones Authority Act is Special Technology Zones Authority is my organization. This was promulgated in 2021 with a mandate to enable technology sector infrastructure and facilitate technology sector companies to operate from within confined zones, free zones, which we like to call them, and facilitate investors overall, locally and globally. Next slide, please. So, here I've also mapped some technologies of the fourth industrial revolution. These are mainly technologies that are mentioned in our rules, as STZA was developed to facilitate the technology sector, not just IT. Why some of them are green is because these have already been enabled through legislations, policies, regulatory frameworks. They include e-commerce, fintech, edtech, IT, technology, skill development centers, mobile payments, cloud. These are all the main fourth industrial revolution sectors that the government has already worked on. We have also come up with, Ministry of IT has also come up with an artificial intelligence policy. That is also something that is being worked on. But also, this also gives a perspective as to the amount of technologies that are still to be discovered in Pakistan, or still to be enabled in Pakistan. Big data analytics, agri-tech. Agri-tech is a huge focus right now. Nanotech, 3D printing, sustainable energy, electric vehicles. These are all the fourth industrial revolution. We've already missed the boat, but I think right now we've come to a point where industry, government, academia, all of key stakeholders are coming up to one page where we need to grow this thing together because it's a massive opportunity. Next slide, please. So, now comes the main element of the PropTech side of things. How property and tech go hand in hand is, with construction, you set the foundation for future potential in technology. You set the foundation by developing the requisite infrastructure that breeds innovation, that breeds job creation, skill development, and technology exports. There are software and technology parks in Pakistan. These are facilities with power, internet, connectivity, and building management systems, mainly. If you look at the construction and the infrastructure side, we have co-working spaces, these are facilities with power, internet connectivity, and access to cloud storage as well. This is a big win for startups who don't have the financial resources to enable cloud. R&D labs, these are facilities with power, internet connectivity, and hardware equipment to conduct experiments and research, create products and services. Data centers, these are facilities with power, cooling, and cloud infrastructure. Incubation centers, facilities with power, internet connectivity, and server rooms. This is the infrastructure side of tech. And this is where PropTech Convention and PropTech stakeholders and PropTech leaders can essentially lead the way. This is the infrastructure that we need to develop and grow technology overall from $2 billion to $10 billion. Without the foundations, without the fundamentals, which will always be, the industry will always be scattered. So how we're trying to bridge that gap and how we're bringing it all together, I'll share with you. Next slide. Again, this is another snapshot of what, as for IBM, what sort of technology requirements are there. For hardware, in hardware there are desktop computers, servers, data centers, hubs, routers, switches. In software, content management systems, customer relationship management, enterprise resource planning, operating systems. Then we have facilities, physical space for networking, hardware, servers, and data centers. Network, routers, switches, firewalls, balancers. These are all important elements of developing tech infrastructure. And as we go along, these are going to be the basic requirements for any plans to develop any infrastructure for tech in Pakistan. These are going to be the basic requirements. You need all of these specific elements: data centers, networks, storage facilities, software, hardware. All of that comes together beautifully in a sort of a tech park or a tech zone, which is what we're trying to build now. Inshallah. Next slide. This slide also represents you could be an investor from any sort of space, but if you're, let's say, if you're a real estate investor, if you're in the construction sector, and you're looking to dive into tech in Pakistan and understand how to lead your own team or develop your own team, develop your own models, develop your own business models. We have Tech Destination Pakistan, which is a global brand that we're developing. The government of Pakistan is developing. PSET is leading this initiative to promote Pakistan as a technology hub globally. In this Tech Destination Pakistan, we have certain government bodies that are operating: PSET, Ignite, and STZA. PSET is the Pakistan Software Export Board. Their main mandate is export promotion, creating a narrative around technology in Pakistan globally. For anybody who wants to work with PSET, they can get a membership, generally for IT and tech companies. And also, each of these government bodies has an element of public-private partnerships. So, PSET develops software and technology parks to public-private partnership models. Ignite develops national incubation centers to public-private partnership models. With STZA, we have two types of licenses. One is the zone developer license and one is the zone enterprise license. I'm here specifically today to talk about mainly the zone developer license, because that is where we are trying to converge technology and real estate together, build that infrastructure, world-class infrastructure that represents Pakistan at a global scale, and also shows how the government of Pakistan is improving the business environment through certain incentives and legislation. Next slide, please. These are the two types of licenses that we have, STZA has. One is the zone enterprise license. This is for any technology company or organization that wants to conduct business, conduct their operations within one of our notified special technology zones. They could be tech companies, startups, SMEs, universities, skill development centers, VC firms, R&D units. Could be any of the lot that is working on tech or developing tech in Pakistan. For them, it's an easier model. They just have to conduct their operations as is. For a zone developer, they have to set up the infrastructure, the facility, and then manage and operate it as well. This is specifically for the incentives for both are exactly the same. I will explain that in the next slide. But these are two different types of entities. These are more tech companies specific. This is the demand side, as we like to put it. This is the demand side, and this is the supply side. So zone developers are creating that supply of office spaces or work environments that are required for local and global tech companies to come in, create their products and services, or even just conduct business as usual, enjoy incentives. All of this is possible within the confinement of what we like to call a special technology zone, which is a notified area which enables incentives. So it's more of a free zone concept, like we have globally. That's what we're developing. And these are the key stakeholders for us in our model of free zones. The zone enterprise licenses and zone developer licenses. Both have the same incentives, I think, which is on the next slide. Next slide, please. These are the main incentives for both zone enterprises and zone developers. Exemption from income tax and profit gains, exemption from custom duty on import of capital goods, specifically including plant, machinery, hardware, equipment, and software. Exemption, this is a special one for startups and venture capital firms. Exemption from dividend income and long-term capital gains of any venture capital fund on investments in our companies, in our licensed entities, which are zone enterprises mainly. So these are the fiscal incentives, tax benefits. Then we have special foreign currency accounts mandated by the State Bank of Pakistan that allow 100% retention of foreign currency. Makes it easier to conduct business globally for payments abroad, and can be opened up at any bank because this has been notified to the circular by the State Bank of Pakistan. Next slide. So this is my proposition, and this is my proposition to the PropTech community. Why go towards the special technology zones route, or why go towards STZA route, is because our incentives enable a decrease in cost of doing business, at least around 20 to 30%. But we've also specified the infrastructure that you can develop and the kind of infrastructure that the market requires, the kind of infrastructure the global market requires, the local market requires. That makes things easier for you because you're not playing in the dark. You already know there's a demand for technology parks, demand for co-working spaces, incubation centers, and R&D labs globally. As we compete globally in the global technology market, these special technology zones will essentially be the gateway for global business coming to Pakistan, for global investments coming to Pakistan, and enabling our economy overall in the future, jobs, skills, patents, inshallah. That's what we're hoping for to R&D labs. We've also specified what their outcomes are. And I mentioned this triple helix model. So triple helix model of innovation is something that we work on. This basically means collaboration between academia, industry, and government to produce products and services with a made in Pakistan label that go global, that enable job creation, skill development, R&D, exports, most of these economic indicators through collective effort between academia, industry, and government. So in the PropTech community, I see a lot of different stakeholders from academia, from government, from industry, because this is a new field. There's a lot of new. There's even blockchain. There's an element of blockchain and PropTech as well. That is something that requires certain R&D, certain research, overall fractionalization. So yeah, these are our main objectives as well. As I mentioned, innovation, investments, job creation, intellectual property, business activity, and exports. Next slide. Right now, STZA has around 10 plus zones notified across Pakistan. There's the National Aerospace Science and Technology Parks Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad, new state like Towers was our first zone notified in Islamabad. Then we have a relatively new one, which is the Amana Technology Park. It's been given an in-principle approval. They've just converted a commercial mall into a technology park. Yeah, that's a very interesting model. And hopefully, right now, they're the best place in Lahore because they're the only place that has space. We have operational space, but it's all occupied. So it's vacant, fully vacant. University of Agriculture in Faisalabad, Park Austria for Schule Institute of Applied Sciences and Technology in Haripur, NRDC, National Radio Telecommunication Company, they have their own setup, which is a special technology zone as well. Next slide. Then we have Pakistan Maritime Science and Technology Park. This is in Delhi University, Karachi, Lahore Knowledge Park. I'm sure many of us here must know what Lahore Knowledge Park is. It's, I think, around 600 acres worth of land, and we're already working on that model. This Pakistan Digital City in Haripur, again, this Mark STZA, under construction in Lahore, and Islamabad Technopolis is our flagship project, which we started with, is around 140 acres of land in Islamabad, STZA, and that is going to be our main, our own STZA, as we would like to say. The rest of the zones that we have, they're all separate zone developers. Lahore Knowledge Park has a separate zone developer, Maritime Science and Technology Park has a separate zone developer, Digital City is a separate. All of them have separate zone developers that manage and operate the facility. Next slide, please. So, with this slide, and there's another slide after this, my presentation ends. But my point with this slide that we're trying to make is, with the business community leading the way in Pakistan for socio-economic growth, higher productivity, attracting global business, attracting global investors. We have almost the same model as Abu Dhabi global markets. It's a free zone, so you can call it a special zone like one of ours. Ours is specifically focused on tech, but what they've done is they've created that ecosystem which has driven their economy, their national economy abroad. So what we're trying to develop is small ecosystems like these in the zones that I mentioned previously that can bring in investments worth at least millions of dollars, bring in as many companies from at least the region, from MENA, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Qatar, Kuwait, because there's a lot of interest in the Pakistani IT space from these regions. And also then, that will give us more leeway to innovate in policies, innovate in legislations. Also, the framework that these PropTech conventions and conventions such as this present is we get feedback from the industry as to what kind of policies are required to achieve such a target. Obviously, from the government side, it's a different perspective, from the industry side, it's a different perspective. Bringing them together, that's what we call the triple helix model of innovation. Next slide. And this is the final slide. This again represents the IFC, which is again a free zone, Dubai International Finance Center. This also is a global hub for business. Inshallah, we hope to set up STZs like these, which are free zones that become hubs for global business in Pakistan, inshallah, in the long term. Thank you so much for your time. This is my presentation.